Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you here on a Saturday morning. It's 9 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone, and that means that it is time for our Saturday morning Science of Mind conversations. Now, if this is your very first time with us, welcome, welcome. We're going to explain how it all works. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Good to see you again. Grateful that you're with us. Brother Wayne. Safe. Good to hear. Glad you are here. Dear Fiona, all the way from Geneva. Grateful that you are with us as well. Morning, Roy. All the way from Fort Morgan. Glad you are with us as well. Linda, also here in Colorado. Grateful that you are with us as well. Anyone else that's watching, feel free to share your name. Let us know where you're from. Join in the conversation as we go today. You're always welcome to chat a comment as we go. All right. For those that are joining us for the very first time, welcome, welcome. So grateful that you are with us. What our intro movie says it all in many ways. We are here to study the Science of Mind textbook. We are here to study, and it's a big book. And believe me, I got a ton of notes inside this thing. But what we do, good morning, Lori. Here we are, all the way from New Jersey. Good to see you as well. Shea Bird, more Colorado people chiming in. Glad you're with us. Reverend Christine Hardwick, great to see you. I've been seeing your face a lot the last couple days on Facebook. Seems Facebook has been showing me your posts more this week. So grateful that you're with us as well. Okay, so the idea is that we are the New Thought Media Network. And New Thought, if you're not aware, is larger, bigger than, has more components than just the science of mind. However, I found the New Thought philosophy from the science of mind perspective. And in that, this was my real true introduction to New Thought. Now, when I look back on my life, I recognize that I read some things and saw some things and truly believed some things that were aligned with New Thought. However, I didn't know that was the name. I didn't know that was there was a philosophy. So it was a Science of Mind church at that time, way back in 2000, 2001, that woke me up to the fact that there was a philosophy, that there was a system, that there were people studying much of what I already believed, and much of what I already believed is in the Science of Mind. However, it took quite a while of reading the Science of Mind to come to all those realizations. And so this program is directly designed to give us an opportunity to come together every Saturday morning and study the science of mind, not just with me, but with all of our with a whole bunch of friends, with a whole bunch of really, and what I think are really great teachers of the science of mind philosophy. And we all have our own way of doing it. But Reverend Mark Gilbert will be with us this year. Reverend Victoria Bomberry will be with us this year. Reverend, I always say Reverend, but Dr. Tracy Brown is with us. Reverend Elzia Sekou is back this year. Those are folks that have been with us last year, and a couple of them the year before even. And now we have a couple of new members on our team. Reverend Rodney Gittins is going to be here and joining us throughout the year. And for those that are familiar with New Thought Media Network, Reverend Barbara Jean is on the team as well. So the group of us throughout this year will be working our way through this book chapter by chapter. Each week we do a chapter. Sometimes we do more than 1 week on a chapter. Sometimes we do more than just one person on a chapter. And we follow the book because, and here's part of the reason. When I first came into this philosophy, so many of our communities, our churches, our centers would study the first 4 chapters, as it were. What is known as the introduction, the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it, and would study that in January as a way of refreshing ourselves around this great work and this great philosophy. And while I love that tradition, and in some communities it's kind of fallen off, but while I love that tradition, I also wanted it to go further. And so I really, when New Thought Media Network got moving and we're looking for a way to expand our offerings, this idea came forward. And so, and rather than try to do this on Sunday mornings when everybody else is talking about all kinds of stuff, we figured, why not Saturday mornings? In case Sundays are already booked for you, as they are for myself and many of the people that are on this program. Our Sundays are already pretty booked, or different places, different things. And so why not a Saturday morning conversation? And that's the way we want it to be. We want you to feel free to comment as we go. We may not always be able to answer your comment or respond to your comment in that exact moment. However, we will do our best to respond to that comment, if not in line in the immediacy, but before the end of the program. And so the intention is that we come together, we get together, we share with you what we're going to talk about. We have a conversation, we chat about it, or as far as we present upon it, and respond and answer your questions, or help to expand so that you have a deeper understanding of it. Now, if you have a Science of Mind textbook, we encourage you to keep it with you and follow along. If you don't, no worries. We do want to make this as easy and accessible as possible. So we use stories and we use other things to help you understand how this works. And as we're going to hear today, because I'm going to read the foreword to this book, which was actually written in 1997. The book itself was first published in 1938. There was a 1926 edition of this book. We're not going to be studying that, but we will be studying this 1938 edition. And it's remained that way ever since. Now, I do like to say that there is a very quiet, if you will, movement to take another more contemporary look at this book and move towards a more gender inclusive language. This was written in its day, in the 20s and the 30s. All of this material was written somewhere in the 20s or the 30s, and it uses the language of the day. So it's heavy on the male pronouns. It's heavy in some areas that you will hear our speakers shift and change. And my intention is I do my best to change that language as we go. And so if you are following along on the book, you may notice some pronoun changes, some more inclusive language, getting rid of some of the gender specific language that is just inherent in a great book like this. And, this is considered by many one of the great books of all times. And you're going to hear a little bit about that, I believe, when we dive into the material again. So someone's saying they can no longer hear me. Let me know. Everything on my side appears to be working properly. So if that's a widespread problem, we'll have to look into that. Might just be a speaker issue. Okay, I've got others that saying they are able to hear me. So I think that's Reverend Christine. Christine, you might want to refresh your page or head on over to YouTube and check us out there and catch the program there from the YouTube page, or double check your speakers. So, okay. Okay. So others can hear me. That's good. And what I like to do, so now, week by week, chapter by chapter, we take a deeper dive into the different aspects. Okay. Christine's got us back again. Good. Glad to hear that. Okay. So, week by week, chapter by chapter, we go through the various aspects of this book, and you'll also know that some of our speakers will take detours. We love to take detours. And one of the other parts of what we do is in this program specifically, we support the Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, because about halfway through the year, we run out of chapters in the Science of Mind textbook. By late July, we're done with the textbook. And so from that point, we focus more on different resources that are available over at the Science of Mind's archives. And we want you to know they have a great, an amazing, and a growing experience of archival material. Old recordings, old articles, all kinds of stuff that have been digitized. It is a deep dive into the history of the science of mind, and resources that aren't readily available. So you'll hear us talk about them as well throughout the year, and more specifically in the second half of the year. So, all right, let's jump in. All we're going to do today is look at the foreword that was included in later editions of the Science of Mind. If you have an earlier edition, you may not have this, but in later editions of the Science of Mind, there's a foreword that was written by Dr. Gene Houston. Now, this was written in 1997, but I think it still holds true as a great way to set the stage in many ways for what we're about to experience and what we can experience through this. So if you have a book, if you're with me, there's no page numbers. It is before everything. And it starts like this. This is a book for the ages. It contains the distilled wisdom of many eras, many cultures, and one great soul, referring to Dr. Ernest Holmes. However, what we do know is not all of this is exactly Dr. Holmes's words alone. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. So it is the distilled wisdom of many eras, many cultures, and one great soul. To read it is to be charged in the alembic of change. That word always trips me up, and I always got to look it up, so I wrote it in here. It is a device used to distill, or for distillation. To read it is to be charged in the device of distilling change. To read this is to consciously immerse ourselves in the process of change. I love that. To enter into partnership with God, to relearn the laws of co-creation. It is perhaps one of the most potent and influential books of the 20th century, yet it appears on no compendium of great books. Its words have inspired countless millions, seeded the growth of spiritual innovative churches and philosophies, yet no universities places it in its curriculum. That's changed since 1997. And when I read through this forward again, I'm going to strike on a number of chords that I think are not just no longer true, because we have changed in the past 27 years since this piece was written, since this foreword was written. We have seen some of these changes, and some of what we hear in the foreword are calls for us to be vehicles, vessels, avenues, the hands and the heart of change, some of which we have and some of which we haven't, and a few that Gene doesn't mention. And yet I think we're in the process of changing even right now. So its words have inspired countless millions and growing. It has seeded the growth of spiritually innovative churches and philosophies. And I like how she says that, because she puts philosophies in the plural, indicating that there's definitely more than one, that this is not the end all be all of the philosophical thought. Now, you will hear around New Thought Media Network, I love that phrase, a philosophy, a faith, and a way of life. Because I believe we each have our own philosophy. We're all philosophers of this thing called life. And our philosophy requires us to have faith. And that faith is also unique to every one of us, because we express it differently, we experience it differently. And the philosophy combined with our sense of faith leads to a way of life, leads to the way we are living our lives. And that's what this is all about, how we live our lives. We're going to get there, though. And so to continue with Gene, in precise and powerful prose, the book lays out the blueprint for the remaking of the mind and the reenactment of the world. Yet the architects of psychology and social forums know little about it. That has changed. Perhaps, and I'll tell you one of the ways I know that, because we now have a new program that's getting started here on New Thought Media Network. It premieres this coming Sunday evening at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And it's called Divine Interventions. It's with our dear friend, Rev Jersey Girl, Michelle Wadley, and a licensed psychologist, Catherine Duca. So I know that part has changed. Psychology and social forms know more and more and more about this philosophy, as people that have been living this philosophy have taken this philosophy into their work, into their lives, into other aspects outside of their spiritual community. Perhaps this is as it should be, for it is the hidden masterpiece which must be discovered only when one is ready to enter upon the larger life. Truthfully, I think that can be said of any book, of any teaching. And I don't want to limit when someone can come to the science of mind. So I want to let go of that old concept that we are the great secret. We are the great hidden, as Gene said, it is a hidden masterpiece which must be discovered. I want the science of mind to be known as a great book on the compendiums. I want science of mind to be known as a part of who we each are. Now, it is not the end all be all. It is not everything. If this was everything, I would read this one book and that would be it. And if you look around this office, you will see there are countless different books that help us to understand ourselves, our lives differently and in unique ways and from unique perspectives. I don't agree with absolutely everything Holmes says in this book. There are places I don't agree. Yet for the majority of what I do agree. We are in major alignment. Let's put it that way. So, okay. So, second paragraph here with Gene. If I were to state the essence of the teachings of the science of mind, it would be that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We hear that a lot in this movement. And the core of each human being is the original creative genius of the universe. You are, at your very core, the core of each being, of each human being, is the original creative genius of the universe. We are therefore the lensing of God's stuff on earth. We'll talk about lenses throughout this year too. We are the lensing of God's stuff on earth, the focalization of eternity in time. Consciously or unconsciously, we direct the flow of universal mind into form. That's that co-creative part, folks. And I love, she's very clear. Consciously or unconsciously, we direct the flow of universal mind into form, into human form. When I first learned that, I was amazed. I mean, you mean life doesn't happen by chance? You mean this stuff isn't happening by fate? You mean this isn't just predestined? I can control the conditions of my life based on the control of my own mind. Consciously or unconsciously, we direct the flow of the universal mind into form. In other terms, the cosmic engine is started, but each one guides it in our own life. This grants us tremendous power, and with it, the innate responsibility to make or break our world through the extraordinary working power of our minds. See, I think staying the greatest secret has actually done humanity a disservice. I think being humble and not standing on the mountaintop shouting about this philosophy has not served humanity. Now, there are more and more people awakening to this philosophy every day. Perhaps you're one of them. Perhaps this is your first time. You found this crazy video. You don't know what you really stumbled into, but you're sitting there and there's something going, wow, I want to know more. That's great. Perhaps you've heard these words before. And what I know, because I've experienced it, and what I trust, because I'm claiming it for you, is that as we go through this year, there will be countless moments where you awaken to a greater understanding of this philosophy, where you awaken to a greater understanding of how you can activate this philosophy in your life. We learn, yes, through the repetition, but even if I don't understand what I'm reading, just the activity of being in study opens up my capacity to understand this more. Follow that? My willingness to understand this philosophy simply by reading the words, simply by being in the place of saying, I'm going to show up, even if I don't understand what this guy's talking about sometimes. That increases our capacity and our ability to be able to understand this. And that is why it's so important that every year we start from the beginning. And for as long as New Thought Media Network is around, we will have these types of conversations where we start from the beginning and relearn and re-engage and reenact all that we have learned through this mighty book, this great book. Thus, the practical emphasis in the science of mind of schooling of schooling in the power of trained thought. The emphasis of the science of mind is to help us train our thought. So much of our ordinary thinking lapses into habitual patterns with little variations from one day to the next. Our lives mirror this and fall into serial monotony. interrupted by episodes of trouble, panic, and loss. We live then as limited, crippled versions of who and what we are, suffering the continuance of emotional plagues and toxic thoughts, and the world reflects this tragically. In contrast, the science of mind takes seriously the dictum of being recreated through the renewing of our minds. Every day that I have a new thought, I am renewing my ability to experience and live this, and therefore eliminate all that suffering, let go of all that worry and doubt, and create the life I truly desire. And it is not just our minds, but our bodies and our souls as well. The power of second Genesis lie within us. Now, I had to look that one up. And the very first time I read, like, second Genesis, is she talking about the Bible? Is this something different? Now, the second book of Genesis in the Bible speaks predominantly to the personal relationship between God and humanity. So I believe that she is speaking to the fact that the power of our personal relationship between God and humanity lies within each one of us. But this means, and these are Jean's words again, but this means that we must agree to attune and orchestrate our thoughts and emotions toward higher purposes and creative ends. That implies it doesn't work if you're using this to tear things down. People, organizations, institutions. We're not here to rip it apart. We're here to be aligned and in tune and orchestrated our thoughts and emotions towards higher purposes and creative ends. You know, I have to ask you, what are those higher purposes for you? Not everyone is here to do the same exact thing. Not everyone has the same purpose. Some of us are called to help those that are unhoused. Some of us are called to help those that are in the letting go of the mortal body and hospicing folks into the next great dimensions of livingness. Some of us are here with the purpose of creating a new perspective of media. Some of us are here with a purpose to create a new perspective in the childcare system, in our education system, in our food service systems. We must have a higher purpose, and then we get these creative ends. You have within you the ability to determine what creativity you bring, how you help to create the next vision of humanity's life on planet Earth. In this, we have help. Okay, so let's start again from the top of this. The power of second Genesis lies within us, but this means that we must agree to attune and orchestrate our thoughts and emotions towards higher purposes and creative ends. In this, we have help. For spirit assures that the lure of becoming is always calling, as is the incendiary vision of what we may be. We're limited only by concept and the refusal that comes from ignorance or laziness to remount the slope of thought. We are limited only by the concept and refusal. We are only limited by our unwillingness to envision or our unwillingness to be a part of it. But if we can imagine it and we're willing to be a part of it, then we join in this slope of thought, as she says. The science of mind gives us the passion for a new possibility, along with precise and clear directions for building a new matrix of mind and manifestation. It shows us how to activate the constructive imagination and how to hold in thought and feeling the intention and energy for healing, holding, and co-creation. It shows us how to stop boring God by waking up to the fact that we are in God's school to learn the principles of world making and the evolution and the evolving of self and society. Fancy words. We are in God's school. We are learning to use the power and the presence and the intelligence, of which there is only one power, one presence, one intelligence. We are learning how to use the power, presence, and intelligence in order to make worlds and evolve ourself and society. Evolution is seen to follow involution, wherein we discover that our minds are stargates, our bodies seld the mysteries that give us keys to the emerging phase of our existence. Ernest Holmes was one of the first to direct us to what is to be found in the vast ecology of inner space. In his scope of understanding and application, he anticipated and prepared the field for the revolution in mind and brain research that was to come. And we are in the midst of that, folks. I love how in his scope of understanding and application. See, that's another place where I think we sometimes fall a little short. We come to a deeper understanding, but how am I going to apply this? Where am I already applying this understanding? If we find ourselves at work saying, oh, that's just the way it is, or that's the way it's always been around here, those are big red flags that we're not applying this, because we are the instrument, we are the alembic, we are the vessel of change. And if we're not working towards that change, then we are stagnant and truthfully no good. Ernest Holmes was one of the first to direct us to what is to be found in the vast ecology of inner space. In his scope of understanding and application, he anticipated and prepared the field for the revolution in mind and brain research that we are now living. The patterns of an emerging sacred psychology are offered in the knowing that as we go within, we can access the deep structures of our being and build bridges to the great archetypal realm wherein lie the dynamic designs that form and reform our reality. Again, a little bit of a promise that when we use this, when we live this, when we work this, we have the ability within to change the conditions of our lives, to create the life we truly desire. My words. The science of mind shows us how to be active and creative citizens in a universe and innerverse richer than all previous imaginings. This book, it's what she's saying, allows us to be an active and creative citizen in the universe and in the innerverse richer than all previous imaginings. Written in what some may believe to have been a simpler time, this work speaks to a future, more complex times as well. That, for me, has proven to be true. Because while this was written not quite 30 years ago, we want to remember that the book was written 90 years ago. The original, the 26th edition, we're coming up on 100 years. The 38 edition, we're at 85 years. 85 years ago, these ideas were loosed into the world in this form. And I find them incredibly supportive of my experience. I ain't 85 yet. So these words, what we're going to study predates me. And yet, anytime I'm having something difficult in my life, anytime I'm having a questioning or a wondering or whatever it might be, I know I can turn to this book. And when you look at the chapters of this book and what we have, and I can turn to this book and find the answers and find the techniques and the tools that I can use to lift me out of whatever that may be and lift me into a new opportunity to be something new. Written in what some may believe to be a simpler time, this work speaks to a future, more complex time as well. Although Holmes's use of language belongs to the 20s and the 30s, I spoke of this earlier, the ideas expressed remain larger than the constraint of words and even more relevant to today's necessity. Holmes seemed to anticipate the world of the new millennium. Sometimes he didn't. He was way off. Holmes seemed to anticipate the world of the new millennium with its compounding of factors unique to human experience. How can we deal with a world in the throes of whole system transition? Now, this is an important part because this was in 97, and I believe that Gene Houston has that prophetic eye as well and was looking towards out into the future. How can we deal with a world in the throes of whole system transition? It's nothing more relevant to what's happening right this minute in this day, 2024. Whole systems transition. Whole systems transitioning. How can we deal with a world in the throes of whole system transition in which everything that we have known is changing at so rapid of a pace that we are caught between the dangers that threaten us and the opportunities that beckon us? Educated for the demands of a different time and culture, we are called to be re-educated, to use much more of ourselves in meeting the many new challenges that confront us. We have no choice then but to democratize greatness and utilize the whole continuum of human and divine potential. I think what she's saying there is we have to remember everyone is valuable. No one should be cast aside, and no one should be cast out, no matter what. Even those I don't agree with. Everyone is necessary. Is vital to this. We have no choice then but to democratize greatness and utilize the whole continuum of human and divine potential. The science of mind says that this is not only possible, it is what is expected of us. We each must heed the call, and I believe we each are called to step into our greatness. For me this year, a phrase that has caught me in the past couple months, and I want all of us to share this, is I am willing to step up and stand out. I'm willing to step up to the challenges of this day and stand out as a voice of this great philosophy. The infinite knowing. The science of mind says that this is not only possible, it is what is expected of us. Indeed, it is that for which we have been created. The infinite knowing that it cannot contract has coded the relative, meaning us, meaning ourselves, for expansion into itself, meaning the divine or God. For the first time in human history, we are required as a species to extend ourselves into radically new ways of being. The tasks that are now our tasks, the tasks of virtual creation, compel the revolution in consciousness that tells us we are part of the great unfolding of spirit in flesh. These are the times. We are the people. This is the book that can help us do it. We were born for this moment. You and I, your family, your friends, everyone on this planet, if they're on this planet at this time, are here for an absolutely necessary and vital reason to serve the evolution of human consciousness. So we can let go of the division, so we can let go of the sense of separation, so we can let go of the old mindset that looks at planet Earth as a resource rather than a starship. And I believe that we, as New Thought Media Network, an organization within a great philosophy, I believe we stand at a unique nexus of information and creation. And I find it so amazing that the common vernacular today is that we are creators. If you're a creator, if you're creating this, and no matter where it is that you're creating, whether you're creating on YouTube or creating on Facebook or creating on TikTok or creating on LinkedIn or creating wherever you, Instagram, Twitch, places I don't even know exist. I'm sure the kids today have places where they're creating content and I don't know where it is. We are each creators, co-creators. See, when we try to create on our own, when we can try and create just by myself, well, I can learn how to do that and I can meet with success. But when I co-create, when I step into that experience, the second Genesis, how was it she said it? Close my book, I need to go back. The powers of second Genesis, the personal relationship between God and humanity, co-creation. The power of co-creation lies within us. But this means that we must agree to attune and orchestrate our thoughts and emotions towards higher purposes and creative ends. I believe that over the coming weeks, if you join us on this adventure, if you join us in this deep, deep learning, you will not only find that you are the co-creator of your life, but that you are the co-creator of the future of humanity. We can all do that. And we all must. Every one of us. We are called here to expand our understanding, to expand our capacity to express these principles so that we serve the evolution of human consciousness. And what we know is form follows consciousness. I have to be conscious of a vision before I can experience it in form. I must be conscious of the vision before I can experience it in form. And I know there are so many great organizations out there that are doing this work. And truthfully, I think we're creating a community of amazing co-creators here at New Thought Media Network. When you look at the lineup of who is on this, a part of this network, whether they've got a weekly show or they show up occasionally, whether they're part of an experience like Saturday mornings and you'll see them 6 or 8 times. You see each of us about 6 or 8 times throughout the year on Saturday mornings. You see me a little extra. I fill in the cracks sometimes. But when we look at what's being created here in this mighty ministry, we are creating a new thought on media. And we're creating a new thought on how we share this mighty philosophy called the science of mind and new thought as a whole. And we want to invite you to join us on this adventure. We're here every Saturday morning, but we're here so much more. When you look at the lineup of programming that we offer here on New Thought Media Network, it just continues to grow and expand. And every time I create one of these outlines, it changes and things get changed and things are different. But we are flooding the airwaves with the New Thought philosophy. And on Saturday mornings, we dive deep into the science of mind. On Monday afternoons, we dive deep into the process, into the experience of grief. We look at the growing edge of our lives. We look at how to create practical prayer in our lives. We look how to experience more joy in our lives. We look at how to spin the news, how to perceive and look at the news with a different eye, with a different perspective. And I want to invite you to join us on that. With that, I want to take a quick moment and say thank you to some people, predominantly our individual donors and our organizational sponsors. So if you would, please help me say thank you to a few folks, but don't go away because we'll be right back with more here on New Thought Media Network. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Home Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Yes. Thank you to everyone that makes this network possible, and especially those that are sharing their financial gifts and well-being. It goes a long way to help us get this word out and share this message with everyone across the planet. If you're already a member of our committed giving program, thank you so very much. If you'd like to become part of that program, please head on over to ntmedia.org/donate or click on the donate button. Make your donation a monthly recurring donation, and we'll add your name or organization to that video on our next version, which is coming out real soon because I'm almost done with the next version of the video. If you have any final questions, please feel free to chat. Drop those in the comment box as well. I want to thank everyone for being a part of what we're doing here and being with us this morning. And we'll be back next week at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And Reverend Victoria Bomberry will be with us. This is her third year with us. I'm so excited. And I always love Reverend Victoria's talks. And she hasn't done, this is her first time doing the first chapter. So we're going to start talking next week about the thing itself. It's the first of 4 sections in the introduction to the book itself. I read we were exploring the foreword by Gene Houston today. Hopefully this gives you a touch and a feel and a taste of what we're stepping into and what you're getting into here in the coming year here with New Thought Media Network. Again, I think that's Reverend Christine Hardwick. Thank you, dear one. Appreciate the words. Shay Bird, thank you as well. I'm excited, folks. 2024, it's looking like a really good year. And I'm excited to see what a deeper dive into this work will bring forward in all of our lives. Because what I know is that, well, in another phrase that I've only learned about a year or two ago, and I have fallen in love with, this stuff works if you work it. That's the great Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. She said that first, and I love saying it as well. This stuff works if you work it. And in the next 50 plus weeks, we're going to work it. Thanks again for being with us. Until next time, I want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.